Take a shot every time I say flush pedestrian.
An Appalachian follow-up from a Cherokee citizen and a ravenmocker story.
And the coyote is now running on its hind legs.
So it's believed that Mother Nature chose her to be a healer.
Great that you were talking about the things that you learned from the Indigenous people of Peru, because we themed this Encounters episode. Indigenous stories. They either took place on Indigenous lands or were sent in by people of the Indigenous cultures.
Hello.
Hey.
Are you nervous?
Hey. Yeah, because it's been 2 weeks.
It's my first day of school. Hello. Hi.
This is Two Girls, One Ghost.
Two girls, one ghost. And we are your ghostesses. That is Corinne.
Hello.
And I am Sabrina. And I come bearing gifts.
Of stories.
Gift.
Storytelling.
Singular. Yes, but also
Gifts.
one thing we have never gotten ourselves, but is often used in Peru, Florida water.
No way. Can I smell it? Can I open it? Is that bad?
Please.
Okay. Florida water is the most confusing thing in the world to me because every time someone talks about it, I can never remember what it actually is. And I just picture someone
Going to Florida
gathering,
and scooping up alligator water.
Yeah. Oh.
So they
It
actually,
kind of smells like mouthwash.
we were in Cusco and Puno, which the altitude stuff.
Did you have some coca
Coca leaves.
leaves, tea,
Yeah,
drops,
lots of tea and lots of candies.
lozenges?
But they would drop that in your hand a little bit and you just like sniff it
Mm.
and it was supposed to help.
Oh, wow.
But then we watched this really, really amazing offering ceremony, which I recorded the whole thing. I audio recorded the whole thing.
You did it in Cusco? Is it the one where they
Yeah, so it's
slice open the
Oh, no.
alpaca? Oh.
No.
Well, I don't know why I went to that one.
That's scary and sad.
Yeah.
But I guess that's part of their tradition and their culture. But so when we were in Cusco, our guide, Washington, he's from Cusco, and he has a friend who is a practicing Inca healer. He lives
So
in this
cool.
like tiny, tiny remote village.
Yeah.
And his great grandmother is the last healer that has been chosen by Mother Earth,
How does that
by Mother
happen?
Nature.
Do you know what the
So-
process is?
Yes. And I will post the audio that I recorded on our Patreon for people if you're interested in listening. It's like an
like
hour and a half.
Washington describing it?
It's the whole ceremony.
Oh,
Yeah. And
my
it's
God.
in the language that they speak there. Quechuan, I think is the language. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. And this is an encounters episode, by the way. So we're starting with personal encounters. And then we're going to tell you encounters that you shared with us. Yeah, he did a whole offering ceremony and it was about like giving to Mother Nature and to the mountains because
So cool.
the Mother Nature is like the feminine and the mountains are the masculine. And those are like the two, like it's all about duality. It's really, really cool. In the ceremony, they went around and it's like before you do the offering, they poured some of that in your hand and you rub it together and you had to do 1, 2, 3, and then sniff it and then rub it in your hair like this.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it was a part of the ritual, which I thought was really cool.
I like
And
that.
I really loved they were all about setting intentions beforehand. And this is an ancient practice that has truly been passed down through generations. His great-grandmother, she has traveled the world doing these healing rituals all over the world. She's 96 years old and she still does this.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And apparently she was struck by lightning as a child.
No way.
So she was born a regular human without any abilities necessarily, was struck by lightning, was unconscious for some time. And then everyone in her tribe recalled and like commented on the fact that after coming to and regaining consciousness, she seemed to have abilities. And
What in the world?
so it's believed that Mother Nature chose her to be a healer.
That is, oh my God. That is like the
Mhm.
coolest thing I've ever heard.
I know. The trip was awesome. And I'll definitely talk about it more. I want to do an episode about Peru because I mean, the fact that all of these ancient civilizations happen to lie upon the same axis and there's
Spooky.
believed to be a ley line is kind of wild. But I mean, when the Spanish came, they really did change and alter the way that the Inca people or the Peruvian people lived, as is common. Like when people come in to take control of civilizations, they put their beliefs on it. But the Inca beliefs is not a religion. And I thought that was really interesting. It's just like a practice and a lifestyle. And our guide, Washington, was like, it's sad because the only reason I know about these beliefs and I wake up every morning and I thank Mother Earth and Mother Nature for my day is because my grandparents and their grandparents have passed it down. But like the younger generations aren't getting that same knowledge. And we are getting overwhelmed and congested by modern day.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah, that's like we don't get things passed down. It's more of like assimilate, be exactly who everyone else is right now in this time.
Right.
And there is so much lost, but that is really beautiful.
Well, we're changing things over here. We're going to start collecting our hair that falls out in the studio and make hair wreaths. And
you can make a hair wreath. I'm going to make bangs.
Your own bangs.
Yeah, I'm making the clip-on bangs.
And we can start our own traditions and start passing it on to our children and to our friends and this little community.
And great that you were talking about Peru.
Yes.
And the things that you learned from the Indigenous people of Peru, because we themed this Encounters episode. Indigenous stories. So these stories were sent in by you guys. They either took place on Indigenous lands or were sent in by people of the Indigenous cultures.
Yes. And this is a call to action. We want to hear more of your stories. If you are Indigenous, if you live on a reservation, if you have stories, we want to hear them and we think it's important to share. So
it's more than a call to action. We're actually begging because these
let me
are some
get down
of
on my
the
hands and
scariest
knees.
stories we hear, so we're craving them.
And we also want to hear, like, you know, we learned throughout the years of our podcasting that you're not supposed to say certain words.
Oh my gosh, the
and
years
terms.
that we said certain words. I was really happy doing the episode on Wendigos. It was interesting because it's like we said certain words like windy boys and flesh pedestrians, the other terms for them.
SWs, yeah.
Yeah. But I remember when I was doing the episode on windy boys, just how shocked I was because I was like, oh, if you actually do the research into the Indigenous beliefs, this creature is like entirely different than what people put on the internet.
Right.
So it is important.
And who better to learn from than you yourself?
I thought you were going to say us. I was like,
not from us.
No.
No, not from us. We'll teach you about, I have nothing to give.
I was going through my brain too.
Blank.
I was like, there's nothing that we're like actually true experts in. Boom, 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 boom.
But you know what? I don't claim to be an expert in anything. And that's why I like to seek out other experts to learn. And you're going to go first.
Okay.
You lost your iPad, so we're sharing.
Okay. This is called The Spirit Looking in the Window.
Ooh.
My name is Aaliyah, and I literally just started watching your YouTube videos last week, and now I'm hooked. I've been spiritually open-minded and have always been empathic since I was a child, and now I'm 21, and I've been more drawn to spiritual work than ever, and I feel like I could be a witch.
I feel like if you think you are, you are.
True.
If you want to be, you can be.
That's what we're experts in. Telling you can be
whatever you want to be.
Ghosts are real. I have an encounter from when I was a child, and I will never forget it. I grew up in Town, New Mexico, known for its beautiful scenery, its art, and the Cocopelli. And I'm pretty sure where I was living at the time was on a native reservation, but I haven't done any research. I lived in a smaller trailer with my grandparents, my dad, my uncle, and my auntie, and I could have been maybe a little bit younger than 5 years at the time, but somewhere in that age range. I used to sleep in between my grandparents until my grandmother passed away due to a heart attack while sleeping.
Oh.
And it was like any other night this night, with them trying to fight with me to go to bed because I hated it when it was time to go to bed, and I really wanted to stay up longer. But I succumbed to my exhaustion and I fell into this deep sleep. And then I started to dream. But I was in the same room that I've been familiar with my whole life. But it was weird because in this room, there was a light in the room. But it was like it was rainy and cloudy. So maybe it was daytime, but it was dark and it felt eerie already. But I had the covers over my head instinctively knowing that this was my way of keeping myself safe and my feet covered as well, obviously. Somehow I can see through the blanket because dreams are weird. And I looked towards the window that was on the right. And mind you, in real life, the curtains are always closed on that specific window. But then I saw something look in the window. And it looked like this stereotypical Halloween sheet ghost with cutout eyes, but it was looking for something. It was peeping very closely, looking for any movement. It was probably looking for me.
Ew.
It kept searching for what felt like forever until it left, and then I officially woke up. And when I woke up, I didn't feel any sense of fear. I think maybe I was just curious and confused why I felt the need to keep myself covered in the dream. And one thing I did forget to mention is that my grandparents were not there. It was just me alone. And I kept having this dream, and I don't know why. It could have been maybe a week or maybe just 3 days, but I continued to have this dream night after night. It was the same thing, but my dream started to change. So now the ghost didn't appear in the window, and I was patiently waiting in this same spot looking for this ghost to show up. So I was confused. I had the covers over my head. I start to scan the room until I see in front of me.
No, it's inside.
The ghost. I froze in that moment. It stood there until it noticed that my feet were exposed from the soft haven that had been protecting me for several nights prior.
Not your toes.
Now, this is where fear ran over me. This thing is still looking at me, and then suddenly it reached out and pulled me by my feet. So forcefully, it actually woke me up from my dream. I was so confused, I stayed up until I fell asleep again. And then the next day I told everyone, but of course, no one believed me, telling me, oh, it was probably just a nightmare. And then that night, me and my grandparents were asleep, and thank God I didn't have this dream anymore, but something far worse happened.
Oh no, oh gosh.
Me and my grandparents were awoken by scratching on the walls. And this was not regular scratching. It sounded abnormal and slow, and it felt like it went on forever. I sat in bed in fear while my grandparents sat in bed listening at the same time, hearing this thing. After that, we all stayed up for the rest of the night. I could not sleep after what we experienced. Neither could they. I'm glad we never saw what made that noise because it did sound like it was coming from the outside. I'm glad it never happened again, but my grandparents were big skeptics and they didn't want to believe that I was experiencing anything paranormal or that this was paranormal, saying that this was all just bullshit.
After that, they still said that?
I guess. But also you kind of have to tell kids sometimes.
That it's nothing.
Like, oh, it was just an owl.
It's interesting timing, though.
It could have been a spirit that wanted to mess around with me. Or given where I was, the scratching came from one of those flesh pedestrians, which are very common where I live.
And the whole looking in the window is also a common characteristic.
Right.
It's an MO.
After that experience, I do feel like I've been pretty sensitive to understanding good and bad vibrations from places and people, and I have a really good intuition. I have been scratched. I have been bruised by entities that felt offended by me, all while I was sleeping. And this doesn't bother me, surprisingly. I now live in Denver, Colorado, and I live with a ghost who likes to move things around. He isn't bad. He just chills in my room, and we just don't really bother each other. I'll be watching you ladies from now on, and you guys have been helping get me through my 10-hour graveyard shifts. Which I'm like, are you in the graveyard shift or are you in the graveyard shift? That'd be cool if it was like an actual graveyard.
A graveyard shift in a graveyard.
In a graveyard shift. Thank you, and see you on the other side, Aaliyah.
I don't like that this entity was waiting outside the window for night after night after night. And then the one night your toes are out, it's inside. And it grabs your feet, and then it knew that no one was going to believe you. It knew so much that it appeared in waking life to everyone else in sound form, regardless of if you could physically see it or not. And it was almost like mocking.
Okay, let's think of it as this creature, this like a flesh pedestrian being. I feel like most of the time with these entities, with these like spirit, bad people cannibalizing turned beast stalking reservation land, it's usually like a physical manifestation, right? Like people are seeing these things, people are hearing things, people are hearing the scratches, the hi, or like help, come outside,
it's a lot of
the
mimicking.
knocking. Yes. And so in a way, Aaliyah did experience that with her grandparents, but it is interesting that there were all of these encounters before. So it did make me wonder, was this truly the spirit or like this creature, this being?
Right.
Or was this something else trying to warn and prepare her for something nearby that
I
was
like
about
your
to
positive
lurk
take that you
in
always
the
like to give.
windows.
You have an
Finding the spin.
expertise in finding a positive spin, and I have an expertise in finding a darker spin. But then sometimes we pivot. Sometimes
That's
we
true.
trade places.
Very rarely, but yeah.
I like that version. And it does sound like after this experience, Elia became like very, very open and in tune. So maybe we thank this experience for helping you tap into your witchiness.
Yeah.
I have one from our listener, KB. It is an Appalachian follow-up from a Cherokee citizen and a ravenmocker story.
Whoa.
Which we covered ravenmocker when we did a 3-part series. I can't remember what episode. 317, 316, 318, something like that. I don't know. Hi, ladies. First, I wanted to say that I am a tribal citizen of the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma, and I really enjoyed your 3 episodes on Appalachian Tales. Most people forget that the Cherokee are considered a southeastern woodland tribe because the large population resides in Oklahoma, thanks to the Trail of Tears. As for Corinne's concern about the ravenmocker being the same as Bigfoot, there is no need to worry. Both are shapeshifters. Also, remember when you did the ravenmocker and you're like, mine's not that scary. It was terrifying. They're both shapeshifters, but not considered the same being. Also, a fun fact, the Bigfoot name, Jalaki. Oh, that is... thank you so much for they created
when people
a
do like the pronunciation
because
thing
this is spelled
emails.
Tsalagi. I would have never said Jalaki, aka the Cherokee word for Cherokee, is Utan Julazgi. That's the name for Bigfoot.
I like it, and given the sounds, like when we listen to actual Bigfoot recordings, it almost kind of sounds like some of the sounds Bigfoot makes.
Right.
So ooh, 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 ooh.
I did a high pitch. Sorry. I was Bigfoot going through puberty there. Bigfoot is thought to be a cosmic being, part of a 3-world cosmos that is not subject to the physical laws we are subject to. If you like Cherokee cryptids, I would also suggest looking into Spearfinger, Thunders, or Nanihi, the people who live forever.
Ooh. Nose goes Nanihi.
See, this is why we like getting emails from you. Thank you.
And also, I'm a little bit upset with the world because I felt like it was this new revelation a few years ago where people are like, Bigfoot's this interdimensional being and traveler. And it's like,
no, this is a
look
belief.
at the Cherokee. Apparently they understood what was going on way before this.
Okay, well, KB has a book for you to read, Cherokee Earth Dwellers by Christopher Tootin and Hastings Shade, as well as Cherokee Stories of the Turtle Island Liars Club.
Oh, that sounds super interesting. You have my
attention.
Peaked.
We'll also put those in the episode description in case you're like us and don't write down immediately what we just said. Okay, so now on to the ravenmocker story. Several years back, one of our elders had an experience with a ravenmocker.
No way.
He was at a family get-together at a lake when he spotted an old woman watching them from behind a tree. This elder realized that despite knowing this woman, there was something seriously off about her. For starters, this woman was a family friend. There was no reason for her to be sneakily watching them from behind a tree, as she would have been welcomed with open arms had she approached the group. Then there was also a fact that this woman was supposed to be out of town. On top of that, she looked wrong. Her arms were a little too long and her eyes were a little too dim. This elder approached the woman, declaring that she was a ravenmocker, making a fairly large scene about it. And this woman panicked and quickly ran away from him. Within the next few days, one of the members of the family from this get-together got very, very sick.
Oh my God.
They brought a medicine man in and luckily she was able to recover. When he spoke to the old woman the next time he saw her, she confirmed that she was indeed out of town and had never gone out to the lake.
Oh, can I just say, I really appreciate how quickly the response was too. Like this person was just like, I know exactly what's going on here. Things are a little off and I'm going to call it out.
And the woman, the ravenmocker, ran away.
Right. Like that's proof.
This
and
confirmed.
Imagine if they didn't do it.
Right. What would have happened?
How many more people would have gotten sick or maybe even died?
This confirmed to the elder that this person he had seen was most definitely a ravenmocker. I would love to hear more native stories if anyone shares them or if you ever do a deep dive. There's truly so much to cover and you do a great job every time, KB.
Okay, well, KB, you gave us a great list.
Yeah.
I think we're going to cover probably all of it.
Yes.
Every single thing on there.
it's one of those things where it's like, I want to cover those stories, but I also want to do it justice. And I don't.
I know.
So it's like, KB, do you want to email us more and share more with us so that we do it justice?
Well, and that's like the hard thing. Like that's one of the things that when I was researching Windy Boys a few years ago, like it was hard.
Right.
You really have to dig on the internet to find what hasn't been whitewashed or rewritten or.
Right. Well, also, so I saw on a comment from our episode that we did, 322 of Reddit Appalachia Stories.
Mm-hmm.
I briefly mentioned Chief Cornstalk, and multiple people commented saying like Chief Cornstalk was a real human, a real person who did get brutally murdered when he went to go do peace offerings with the colonizers, the settlers. But the whole curse was actually made up in a play. And now people have adopted it and made it a real story, but it's not actually real.
See, that's what's hard because things are dramatized and it's like what was like inspired by versus what has always been.
Right.
It's difficult. Hi, Sabrina and Corinne. I'm back, and this time I have some stories about flesh pedestrians. Okay, like I mentioned in my last email, I'm from Utah. I've lived there my whole life. And as you know, Flesh Pedestrian Ranch is in Utah. And obviously, majority of the state used to be and still is Native American land. Thankfully, I've never been to this ranch, nor do I ever want to, because aside from the snakes, there is nothing I'm more scared of than flesh pedestrians.
Yeah.
And then they write, take a shot every time I say flesh pedestrian.
We will be quite intoxicated.
High on ghost stories. Okay, first I want to start with a story about my older brother and the first time I ever heard about flesh pedestrians. My family lived in a pretty rural area on the outskirts of a bigger town, and people would often drive out to where we were with their unwanted pets and leave them there instead of taking them to a shelter. Curse those people. So it was not uncommon to see stray dogs and cats out there. My older brother was a teenager in the late 2000s and ran around with these edgy kids. And I bring it up because imagine an emo kid with spiked skunk bleached hair wearing Metal Militia blasting A Day to Remember and obviously think that he's badass. This is not a dig. I always thought my brother was the coolest person alive. But I bring this up because he definitely was not the type to get freaked out or scared. But one night, after partying with his friends out in the middle of nowhere, right near where we live, he was driving home on these dark roads where there were no lights and no one else was on the road. While he's driving, a 3-legged dog jumps out onto the road and is walking extremely slow. It seems like this dog is injured. So my brother passes it, not thinking too much of it, when a couple minutes later, miles down the road, he sees, again, this exact same dog. And there's no way that this 3-legged injured dog could have ran ahead of my brother. My mom and I had been watching a TV show when he got home. It was around 1 or 2 a.m. And to this day, this is the most freaked out I have ever seen him. Jeez. My mom was the one that told him that it probably wasn't a dog. It was probably a flesh pedestrian.
Okay, so this is the first time Shaylee has ever heard the term.
The term, exactly.
And it's associated now with seeing her brother
panicked. Skip a few years later. I discover your podcast. This isn't scary, more just funny. I used to live 2.5 hours from my parents' house, and to visit, I would have to leave immediately after work. So leaving around 8 p.m., getting to my parents' house around 10:30 or 11, and one of these times, as I'm driving home, I'm listening to one of your episodes. And it is about flesh pedestrians out in the middle of rural Utah at 10 p.m. I don't think any of your podcast episodes have scared me just how bad this one did. I was so scared that I drove the whole episode with my brights on so that I couldn't even look at the sides of the road because I was just so scared I would see something. I had to pee so bad, but I was so nervous. I didn't even stop at a gas station. I just could not even sleep when I made it back to my parents. But when I did make it back from my trip, I was working and I told my coworker just how bad that episode scared me. And side note, she's also a big fan of your podcast.
Shout out to your coworker.
Shout out to Shaylee's coworker. She goes on to tell me that she has a story about a flesh pedestrian and one of her family friends. And this is what I remember her telling me. So this might not be completely accurate, but this is what I remember. I don't know the name of the family friend, but for this story, I'll call him Jay to make it easier. So Jay was serving on a Latter-day Saints mission, and I'm pretty sure it was somewhere in Arizona near a reservation. And Jay and his companion were told to never be on the reservation after dark. Which isn't that weird because a lot of people are told to be home before dark on every mission and not to stay out late.
Yeah.
One night, Jay and his companion get caught up teaching someone on the reservation and they don't leave until after dark. Obviously, they don't want to get in trouble for breaking the rules, so they get out of there and they try to get home quickly. And while they're speeding off, Jay turns and looks out the passenger side window and sees a coyote running alongside them. Both he and his companion are like, okay, that's weird, but they continue. And they drive faster and faster. And the whole time they're driving, the coyote is keeping pace with them. Right before they're about to leave the boundary of the reservation, they look over and the coyote is now running on its hind legs. But as soon as they left the reservation, this coyote disappeared. My coworker didn't have any more details about what happened after that. She told me this story, and I was so freaked out that my eyes actually started watering. I still have a hard time looking at the sides of the road while I'm driving at night. Anyway, those are my flush pedestrian stories. I hope you like them. I hope it freaked you out as much as they did for me. I love and appreciate you gals. Hope you have the best day. Love, Shaylee.
Definitely freaked me out. What's the purpose?
I guess that's like the big question is what happens when it gets you? You know? What happens when you pull over on the side of the road to help the dog thinking that it's an injured dog? What happens if you don't leave the reservation?
Those stories because nothing good happens.
Right.
I'm a little, can you tell I'm flustered? I feel like so we recently added all of these curtains, the blackout curtains in the office. And I'm aware that there's windows behind them. And every little sound, I'm like, is someone standing on the other side of the windows?
The window?
Luckily, it's daytime.
It is freaky. The coyote thing, I know they're saying that it's a flush pedestrian, but like, why in my mind do I feel like people have these amazing abilities and like these shamanic healers and native healers and stuff can shapeshift and basically like make sure people, either it's like making sure they get off the reservation safe or like a warning, like you better be careful. I'm going to escort you out.
You keep having these positive twists.
Guys, I need to be able to sleep.
I like the idea.
I did campfire stories without you, and I did not. I had nightmares from it.
I thought it was a heartwarming one.
Oh, no, it was the episode before, or it was the week before that gave me nightmares. But the heartwarming one, people did not listen. We got one heartwarming story. I was like, thanks, you guys.
I have one called Someone's Watching Me.
I always feel like somebody.
And didn't I just say I feel like someone's watching us through the windows? So perfect timing. Okay. This is from our listener, Selena. Hey, ghouls. I just wanted to start by saying I'm not sure how I have never seen your podcast before because I love horror, mystery, and all things spooky, as well as a good podcast. So the fact that I barely started to listen in is beyond me. But anyway, I'm glad I found it. I love your podcast and have been watching literally every day while I cook. So I am excited to keep hearing these awesome stories. All that to say, I have been inspired to send in my own. So without further ado, I'll get right into it. In order to explain it correctly, I feel like you need some context. My name is Selena. I am 21 years old. I am a mom to a 4-month-old baby girl. I moved into my fiance's house about half a year ago before I had my daughter. I'm Native American and I live on reservation land. And when I was younger, I also lived on the reservation. Right now, we live about 30 to 40 minutes from a national forest that is pretty thick woods all around here. And there's a lot of ancestral energy. Mm-hmm. My family and I have all been super susceptible to the paranormal, and it also plays a huge role in my culture. So growing up, I have been exposed to the world of all things paranormal. My mother has told me countless stories of what she has seen and experienced, and I too have experienced my fair share of strange noises, doors shutting on their own, but I am what I would say is more sensitive to feeling and hearing the other side more than seeing. But I also do see the other side. And there are entities that have been following me throughout my life. I have been watched my whole life.
Whoa.
Whether good or bad, I have been able to clearly feel and see what I can only name to be entities. And I'm not sure why. Maybe my sensitivity has created me to be a passageway. But when my mother was pregnant with me, she said that she could feel my spirit, my little baby feet, walk up her back and out of her body to go wander the world and play.
What?
And then she would feel that when I was done, my little feet walking back down her back, back into her body.
I am flabbergasted. Flabbergasted. What the fuck?
What are flabbers?
I don't know.
Are they
I
your
have
feet?
No idea.
Are they your titties?
And what is being gasted?
But you're flabbergasted.
I'm aghast.
I'm aghast.
My flabbers are aghast. whatever those are. I don't know, but oh my God, that is like, whoa, this is a unique one. I've never heard
of this.
Yeah.
But I love that. So my mom would say and wonder if I was a flesh pedestrian, but not the scary kind. I've always been able to teeter this line of life and death through my spirit. And even now, I feel like my spirit is older and has lived many lives and has created a more sheer veil between the spirit world and our physical world. I feel as though I am a walking light in pitch blackness in the spirit world, which is why spirits are drawn to me because they are following my energy and my light. I mean, I want to meet you, Selena.
Right? This is so cool.
Okay. So all of my life, I have seen something watching me. I've seen things out of the corner of my eyes. I used to see things walking home with me from the bus stop. I'd have frequent run-ins with vultures, the bird, on my walk to school and early morning dusk. I frequently walked with my eyes to the ground, maybe from subconsciously just trying not to look for things in the trees or in the distance, but also because I walked downhill to get to my house. One day I was walking home and right beside my feet, I saw large black work boots walking next to me. I'm not sure if this person was my protector, walking me home, as I would have frequent run-ins with reservation dogs and wild animals that would definitely scare me on my way home. And this man, to me, felt like he was walking next to me, just walking me home. I also forgot to mention, once I saw those same boots walking next to me, I looked up, but there was nothing there. I was little, so of course I was frightened and I ran the rest of the way home. I'm not sure if the spirit was good or bad, but I was very spooked. It does feel kind of like you were saying, like an escort.
Mm-hmm. Although I don't know, because Selena's so in tune that like just being spooked, it's like, are you spooked from the experience or are you spooked from the energy? Because I feel like you have to trust your intuition here.
She said she doesn't know if it was good or bad. Okay, fast forward to about 3 or 4 years ago. I lived in a very spooky apartment where I felt malevolent spirits. I even felt them put their hands on my back. I had heard them scream my name in my ear. They were definitely mischievous. Okay, now fast forward again to about 1 or 2 years ago now, at my last apartment where my now fiance would often spend time there. One time we were cuddling and we felt a hand slide over my side / my back where our hands were both placed while cuddling. We both felt it and it scared the shit out of us. Another time, my fiance was lying next to me and something literally picked up his leg, lifted in the air. It was insane to see. It looked like someone pulled his leg. Mind you, it moved his whole torso upwards. There was no way he could have done it himself.
What is happening with your family? What?
Maybe they were like, you guys are too close, pulling him away. He said it felt like someone ripped his leg up in the air. So all of this to get to the present. Now I'm living at my fiance's house with a very active spiritual energy here. So this land is very old. There are lots of spirits that live here. His mother lived here her whole life with her parents, and I'm sure their parents also lived here. So this land is very old, rich with history and energy. Also, my fiance's father died in this house, and I'm sure his spirit is here as well. I actually believe that this is the spirit my daughter sees and likes to talk to.
No way.
She'll look at the ceiling or look past me, like behind me, and starts randomly giggling at something she sees. But my fiance's father is not the spirit that has been creeping on me.
Oh.
Recently, I've been seeing something standing in doorways. I've seen what looks like an older lady in a blue nightgown in the kitchen doorway, and then I've seen a tall black figure through the kitchen next to the door on the other side. I keep seeing this one little kid that likes to run past me, especially when I'm in the bathroom, since the mirror is facing down the hall. So when the door is open, I see this little kid run in the mirror behind me down the hall.
This is a lot of spirits in one place.
So many.
I was thinking like, oh, here's the person who's creeping on me. It's like, well, actually this place is riddled with ghosts. And it depends on what room you're in, what time of day it is.
The old lady in the blue dress makes me think an ancestor or something. If this house has been in the family for a really long time, but there's a tall shadow figure, there's a little kid. And now there's also the most persistent spirit that is always creeping and only showing about part of his head. Half of his head and one shoulder in the top corner of the doorway. Always only in the corner, peeking at me, just waiting for me to react and look. I like to try and see what it does, so I don't fully look at it and I can just see it out of the corner of my eye and I stare straight ahead without moving my eyes, just trying to see it watch me. And I see it's watching. It's creeping me out further. Every time I get completely freaked out, so I always end up looking over in fear that if I don't, maybe it will creep all the way out. And what happens then? Will it run at me? That's what scares me more than anything.
Yeah, that's the big what if.
It's just watching me. always watching me.
Always watching.
I want to watch that movie again.
You, Wazowski.
I love that movie. We should dress up as Mike and Sully.
Obviously, I'm Mike.
I wanted to be Mike.
Okay, you can be Mike. That's fine.
Anyway, this entity is still watching. Selena, thanks for reading if you made it this far. You guys are awesome. I hope you enjoyed a little spookiness that is my life. Yeah, your life is very spooky.
I feel like at first we were like, wow, Selena's so powerful, which I definitely don't disagree with that. Like little baby body going off to explore when her mom is pregnant with her. But part of me was like, does this happen all the time? But it's just Selena's mom was also so tapped in that she feel it. Yeah.
I mean, we've heard so many stories of like siblings knowing each other before they're born, or
yeah, I guess it depends on when the soul decides to pop in, right? Like Selena was chilling in the womb,
right?
But based on other stories, it does seem like sometimes the siblings will be hanging out, just willy nilly playing with their other siblings until it's time to be born, and then they're like, "Let me hop on in. I gotta vault myself into here,
go through the canal." Well, it also reminds me of the Gateway tapes too, where it's like all of these spirits just hanging out in this other realm. Like it makes me think that Selena could listen to the Gateway tapes and like so easily go over there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What?
So I was talking to Em from That's Why We Drink, and we were talking about my experience of like, oh, I think that maybe I haunted myself in my childhood home, and that I think that maybe there's like our theory that there's another, my postpartum depression anxiety piece chipped off.
Fractured.
Fractured. But Em had a new theory.
What is it?
Which I was like, oh my God. They said, what if these people, like the version of you that was in your kitchen, the version of you that was at your childhood home, like stroking your hair, what if these are all not the chipped off version of you, but you finally figuring out through shadow work or through meditation or whatever, how to go back. And these are just a few times that you actually got caught.
That's fun.
Yeah. I was like, oh, interesting. So it was less of like, these are pieces that you have to bring back, and more of just like, maybe you're visiting all of these times. And like, because these were such visceral times in your life, so traumatic, where like you have such an anchor that when you are trying to do this astral projection, when you are trying to go through hypnosis or whatever, these are some of the like the easier access points for you to access when you're first learning. Because there's so much
emotion there.
Yeah. And so that's why I was visibly seen, because I was early on in my practice.
Did your mom get like weird vibes though from seeing?
She was a little freaked out because it was sleep paralysis and the person looked like me, but not perfectly like me.
Yeah.
Em and I were going back and forth. I was like, too bad we don't do drugs, because like, we could be like, wow.
Em was putting a positive spin on it as well.
Yeah. We didn't need him for that conversation. But pretty wild. But yeah, no, that made me think like, oh, maybe we really do the Gateway tapes, and maybe that's when I suddenly find myself.
Should we just clear our schedule next week? And
truly. But then that's when we got into this. Sorry, this is such a side tangent. But then Em and I were getting into this conversation where it's like, well, what are timelines and different dimensions? Because in my memory, I have this person who looks like me coming back and stroking my hair. But Em was like, now knowing that you stroked your hair, could you do something different? And I was like, well, if I do something different, is that me creating a new timeline and I still don't get to go back? Like,
was that how glitches in the Matrix happen? Like, is that how, like, I'm going to use Berenstain Bears as an example, because that's like the one that everyone knows. What if the person who wrote Berenstain Bears had this like revelation that they could go back and do something, and they're like, I always wish I had written the title in a different way.
Yeah.
And it changed everything, but it doesn't change the memories of everyone else.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know.
Weird. Well, there's like no way to know, because it's only me. I'm the only one experiencing it. So like,
I'm so curious what people think while we're talking and having these conversations. Like, what are you experiencing as you listen to this? Like, what are you thinking? Yeah. Are you thinking you guys are crazy? Did you get completely lost?
I guess like to give a small amount of context, because we just went right into it.
Yeah.
This is in reference to the theory that I'm haunting myself from the future, because I have an experience in my childhood home in a time when I was getting bullied, where there was this woman who came out of the mirror and would like stroke my hair, and she felt good vibes. Yeah. Then postpartum depression and anxiety. My neighbor saw me in my kitchen when I wasn't there. My mom saw someone who looked like me in a sleep paralysis state hovering over her in the guest bedroom. And so we were talking about how like maybe this is me going back. Like I haunted myself, where these are pieces of me chipped off during dramatic and traumatic times of my life.
I say more traumatic than dramatic.
It's both. It's the drama. It's the trauma.
Shakespearean.
And so we're just trying to figure out what the hell happened because the woman in the mirror looks a lot like me now. So that's the context in case you didn't hear that theory like 80 episodes ago and you're not listening in order.
In order, yeah. I don't know. Mindfuck.
And now another
Call
story.
my flabbers gasted.
Call them gasted. This is called Sven, Pukwudgies, and My Sassy 1920s Spirit Guide.
Love it.
This is from Sage. She, her. Hello, beautiful. No, ghoultiful ghostesses.
Oh, even more sultry.
I know. Sven, Leia, and fellow phantoms. This is my first email to you. And I've been binge listening since March when I found your podcast after searching for spooky stories. I adore the lighthearted yet sincere energy you ladies bring. It balances out the heebie-jeebies that come with the amazing stories that you tell. And I've been working backwards from newest to oldest while staying current with the new releases. Lots of compliments. Thank you.
And also, I appreciate your approach of listening to the new releases while going back and catching up. Because then you understand how we've improved and changed and grown, how we've gotten divorced and married.
And had a child and you've become my child.
I'm regressing in life, clearly.
No, you're not.
Just going back. Start over. Are you okay?
No! I think I'm having a stroke.
Okay. What were you going to say?
I was just thinking like in another, I can't even say it. What the fuck? In another 7 years or however long we were doing this, I was just thinking like, what if you do unironically just start talking in baby talk?
I really hope not. My God. Forget you doing positive spins. That's like a, jeez.
I'm a yes and. I was going with you.
I want to like be happy.
Well, maybe babies are happy.
Oh, okay. Gosh.
My Aquarius moon self can't simply start from the beginning. LOL. I'm lost in the triangle and I am loving it. Okay, so this is an explanation of my native name. My father is White Mountain Apache, and I was born in and have lived in Wampanoag territory my whole life. My father buried my placenta by the reservation's sacred circle and planted a cedar tree on top, and my first light ceremony was at the Assonet Ledge. During my father's time as an Indigenous history educator.
What's a light ceremony?
I don't know.
Share more with us, Sage.
Yes. I'm also going to probably butcher some of these pronunciations, so I'm very sorry. During my father's time as an Indigenous history educator for Plymouth Plantation, now known as Plymouth Patuxet, I was very young. I was 3 or 4 years old, and I would frolic through the grounds as he worked.
Oh.
I would stay within his sight line, of course, but I would still watch women weaving baskets and see mashoons, which are canoes, out on the lake. I would hear tourists asking questions. I would pick myself a handful of berries. I would smell the sweet smoke of the nearby fire, and I would walk in circles, taking it all in. The other educators who helped to look after me noticed this, and I was named Wandering Woman. That's such a good name.
Wow.
So now, Sage, we're going to call you Wandering Woman, if that's okay. So the audio to your podcast have always been crystal clear. That is, until Sven was introduced. Dun, dun, dun. Almost immediately after hearing you two mention that Sven sometimes messes with listeners, my audio started to skip, pause itself repeatedly, or just freeze. And this lasted about a week, and sometimes the audio would still pause itself, and I would just say, "Hi, Sven," and then it would stop.
Oh my God, I love this.
I haven't had any other podcast-related incidents other than Sven, but he seems cool. Just tell him to stop messing with the audio, maybe? Or could he maybe cue up some good music at least?
Sven's your new local DJ, personal DJ.
While celebrating the new year this spring, our chief was speaking about our histories, and during King Philip's War, Metacomet's sons reported that small people, pukwudgies, had shot at them with flurries of small arrows. They were forced to retreat and change their course, and later, while cleaning up, I asked my uncle if he'd heard any other stories about pukwudgies, and he paused and said, "Yes, but the people don't like talking about them."
Interesting.
It can attract pukwudgie activity. However, my uncle did offer some advice. They like silver. They like shiny trinkets.
They're like crows.
They're crows. So my uncle always carries nickels and dimes with him just in case he needs a distraction. He would throw them and run away in the opposite direction. My uncle also said that he's heard of someone in the tribe having a clear photo of a pukwudgie and that he would ask around to see if we can get it.
Yes, please.
If I do get to see it, I'll be sure to send it in an email. I also had a guide on a Plymouth ghost tour tell a story about the time that one of the ghosts followed him home. He would see it at night, standing at the edge of the yard amongst the trees, just looking towards the windows, watching, waiting. But now here's a story about Mitzi. Mitzi is very sassy, bold, and opinionated in the best way, always offering me sound advice, never sugarcoating anything, and while also being hilarious and cheering me on. When I would first start seeing Mitzi a few years ago, I would say, "You are only allowed in my space if you are of love and light with good intentions that align with mine." I've never gotten bad vibes, and so Mitzi never really bothered me. At first, she would appear every now and then, usually only when I was getting ready, needed to go out, needed a blunt pep talk, social anxiety, am I right? And one day when I asked her name, at first I heard something like Bonnie. But then when I listened harder, she was clearly saying Mitzi loudly, sounding it out for me. I immediately Googled it and read Mitzi is a girl's name of German origin, meaning faith of God, but more popularly known as a fun vintage name from the 1920s. So Mitzi is beautiful. Think Carey Mulligan as Daisy in The Great Gatsby, but with a stronger New York accent. Her blonde hair in finger waves ending at the jawline, with a plain black headband, no feathers for this girl. With a flirty smirk, she once told me she doesn't need them.
Wait, so you're just seeing her and hearing her like you're hearing us and seeing us?
This is what it sounds like. She usually wears a silver and white flapper dress. Usually, so she's got outfit changes, and smokes a cigarette with a long black holder. I Googled that too to confirm the timeline, and I saw that the cigarette holder became a fashion accessory for women in the early 1920s and remained popular until the 1960s.
Wow.
Mitzi is very caring and very maternal, although in a very sarcastic, tough love and warm and comforting way. I think I always knew deep down that she was a friend or maybe a family member of mine from a past life that I lived around the 1920s.
That's cool.
Plus, the look and feel about her aligned with that time period. But for now, she seems to be acting like a spirit guide. Nowadays, I almost always see Mitzi in the bathroom while I'm getting ready, or even if I'm just using the sink. And she's super respectful of my privacy, though. I love that. So as long as I'm decent, and those are her words, decent, she'll be a few steps away, leaning against the wall, between the window and the cabinet, smoking her long cigarette, ashing it between witty remarks. Are you kidding me? This is the coolest thing.
I'm like, can you record your conversations? Like, have a podcast with Mitzi.
Yeah, me and Mitzi. There's your podcast name. She keeps me company as I do my skincare routine, and I'm actually more comfortable closing my eyes to rinse my face now, knowing that she's got my back and keeping watch out for spooksters. I feel like she's my own personal spirit bouncer, ready to throw some hands with anyone who dares to come and mess with me. And I would do the same for Mitzi. I have a lot more stories to share, including the time that my friends and I accidentally summoned a demon with a pendulum, my neighbor's alien encounter, and a spirit that attached itself to me in a Salem church.
Girl.
And this thing later choked me. Rude. We ended up banishing it right then and there in the bathroom of a pizza place.
Wandering Woman Sage, you have lots of stories to tell us.
Stay spooky. See you on the other side. And apparently, Wandering Woman came to Arts at the Armory. Whoa. Why did I'm like really shoving myself all over the place.
In Boston.
Yeah, our live show.
So she's local.
Which pizza place? I'm scared. You banished it in there. Is the pizza place now haunted?
Or was it already haunted? Is that, I don't know. We have questions.
We have questions for you and for Mitzi. I really want to meet you, but is it rude of me to say that perhaps I want to meet Mitzi more?
Can we have a double date? Corinne, Sabrina, Mitzi, and Sage.
Like, how does one get a Mitzi?
Yeah, I'm curious, like, at what point in your life, Sage, I'm like talking to Sage as if she's here.
We are.
Did Mitzi appear to you? Because it sounded like when Mitzi first appeared, there was like hey, you're only allowed here if you're a good, positive, full of light spirit. But when and why did she appear?
Right.
So cool.
I feel like people in this episode specifically we're getting stories like we've never heard them before.
I know.
Powers unlocked.
Okay, well, Sage promised us a UFO story later, but I have a UFO story for us now.
Great.
This is from our listener, Frankie. This is called UFO Sighting. Hello, darlings. I love your podcast, and I would like to introduce myself. I'm Frankie. I'm from Montana, and I live in a small town on the border of Canada. I'm a 17-year-old girl, and from such a young age, I have seen and heard the unexplained. I am native and very in tune with otherworldly things. So a few years ago, my mother and I were headed home from the gym. And this gym is in the middle of town, but you have to drive up and down this empty valley to get there. It's very rural. So we were driving and both at the same time saw this silver disc in the sky. It was about the size of a dime to us, but it was up in the sky. We then both creepily at the same time said, "Do you see that?" Well, we get through the valley and we continue to see it moving further away from us. And it's above some wheat fields out of town. At that point, it was moving super fast. Well, naturally, my mom and I wanted to get a better look at it. So we drove closer and we had to drive through the trees. And when we got through the trees, it just simply disappeared. It was an experience that I will never forget. It was insane. I kept that in mind and I moved on. So last summer, September of 2024, I was traveling for work and I was down in Wyoming at the time in a town called Wheatland. And now it was very normal for me to experience weird things because I was working on sacred Native American sites, sometimes looking at burials because that was my job to analyze and record them. And at this time, I'm in my truck with 3 other coworkers. One was driving and the other 2 were asleep. I'm looking into the sky and I see it, a similar disc. It was cloudy out, and this disc changed from silver to white the second it passed through the clouds. I was embarrassed to say anything until the moment it disappeared. So I asked my coworker if he saw it, and he said he didn't. But that Cheyenne, the area we were in, was constantly holding aircraft experiments all the time, so he didn't find it odd, and I didn't either. But it looked almost exactly the same as the one that I saw with my mom, and it disappeared the same way. I've also been told that seeing this can mean something of another world is protecting you. And in my childhood, before I even knew what aliens were, I was having nightmares about them. I had nightmares of seeing UFOs and being abducted. So I find it very strange and don't know what to make of it. I have many other ghost stories and strange stories I can send in too. Anyway, hope you're both well and have a lovely day.
Okay, Frankie, your words, not mine, but I had the exact same thought when you were saying that you saw it for the second time, like that same familiar disc. I was like, well, of course, because so many alien encounters, UFO encounters end up being this like longitudinal study where you've been abducted your whole life and you don't even know it.
Well, it sounds Frankie like knows it or thinks it and feels it. I mean, having those nightmares.
Yeah, what were the nightmares? Like, do you remember all the details of the nightmares? Have you ever tried hypnosis?
I know. We need to know more. Oh, you know what's okay. So Payne and his team are working on High Strange season 2. And Dylan was up in Oregon and driving through areas trying to study because there's a bunch of like cow mutilations and stuff happening. And Jesus so he Christ. Was going through this rural area of Oregon trying to talk to police and like vets and people who have been seeing these cow mutilations. And he walks into a vet and he talks to someone at the front desk and is like, "Hey, I'm working on this podcast, High Strange." And the woman, who, shout out to Quincy, goes, "Oh, I've never heard of it, but my favorite podcast is Two Girls, One Ghost."
That is crazy.
And then Dylan blew her mind and was like, "I'm going to text her right now." And so Quincy apparently took that as a sign to email us. So if you haven't emailed us yet, Quincy, email us because that is your sign.
Whoa, that is so cool.
Isn't that crazy?
But holy shit, I didn't even hear about all the cow mutilations happening.
So they're for High Strange season 2, they're trying to like get a more like global understanding of things and talk to, because there's a lot happening, a lot of alien stuff.
Well, they just released for New England, like one of the flights out of Boston, they just released the audio from one of the planes, like the pilots seeing stuff, and they're like panicked. You can hear it in their voice. They're like, "There's a thing. It's on the left. Wait, no. Oh my gosh, it just went." And they're like narrating it the whole time. So they're not even being like the normal serious voices that oftentimes you're like, "I'm calling it an aircraft or whatever." They're like, "Oh, it's here. Oh no, it's there." And there was this thing that was like darting around the coast. And yeah, one of the pilots from Logan Airport in Boston, 2 of the pilots called it in and they released that audio of them freaking out.
I want to listen to it.
Yeah, well, I saved it. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Wow. Well, I feel like this episode encompassed a lot of things.
There was
a lot. A lot of banter, Peru, Indigenous story. We had SWs, ravenmocker.
What is a time?
Aliens. Wow. I'm going to end with just like a note from one of our listeners, Shannon, who is a native and wanted to offer us an alternative to cleansing with sage. Shannon said that I grow sweetgrass, which is another way to smudge and cleanse. Another way is to use cedar leaves. Several times during the summer, I harvest and I make braids. The smell is divine. It could be burned, obviously, or just placed around the house or a car. And she said she wanted to send us some.
Oh, please.
But then said, here's how you can use sweetgrass. It's much more than a nice smelling plant. It can be burned. It represents the connection of humans to earth and sky and is used in many ceremonies and prayers. Typically, sage is burned first to cleanse and purify, but then is followed by sweetgrass to attract good energy and good spirits.
And it's easy to grow.
And one other thing that we want to grow is our inbox of ghost stories. Do you like that segue?
That was good.
Thank you. So email us all of your encounters. Email us at twogirlsoneghostpodcast@gmail.com. If you don't know what our email is, it's on our website. It's on our social media. It's also in the show notes. Yeah.
You can rate, review, tell everyone about us, follow us on socials, and shout out to Jamie Ryan, who edits and produces the podcast. If you want episodes ad-free 1 week early, you can check us out on Patreon. We also have bonus episodes that we do every month that's exclusive to Patreon, as well as campfire stories where you can share your stories live in a like-minded community that exists on a private Zoom call with us.
Private. I'm also going to post the audio clip from the Peruvian Inca healer session.
Washington
was our guide.
Oh.
I can't remember the man's name. I think it started with an E. It's in the audio. He was such a sweet man. Spoke no English, like truly only spoke his native language and was chewing coca leaves the entire time.
As he should.
But I'm going to post that on Patreon too. So if you want to listen to that.
Perfect. We love you guys.
Love you so much.
See you on the other side.